General Joseph Votel, the head of U.S. Central Command, flew in tonight under the cover of darkness. He flew into Qayyarah West, the new joint U.S. and Iraqi logistics base just outside of Mosul. He came in under this C-130 right behind me. It was only the third U.S. aircraft, fixed-wing aircraft, to land here since the base was reopened. As the Iraqis were advancing on it over the summer, ISIS tore it apart. They knocked down buildings, they pocked up the runway, and when the Iraqis and the U.S. came in, they had to completely rebuild it. General Votel is now the senior-most U.S. military official to visit the base, which is serving already as a key logistics hub for the Iraqi and Peshmerga advance on Mosul.
Well, we're up here at Qayyarah West Airfield. This flight that came in was the fourth one that's actually come into this airfield. And as we've talked about, Qayyarah is playing an extraordinarily important role in supporting the operations as a logistics base, as a staging area for Iraqi forces, and as a location from which we are providing coalition-provided capabilities to keep the Iraqis forces moving forward towards their objective of Mosul. We've just had a very good briefing from the Iraqi mission commander, who's given us a very thorough rundown on the activities on all of the axes. I'm very encouraged by what I'm hearing. They report that they are on track in some areas ahead of schedule from where they expected to be. And so we had a chance to talk about the progress and about the coming challenges as they get closer to the city. So overall, very satisfied with where we are right now. And we look forward to continuing to support the Iraqi forces as they continue to move forward towards Mosul.
So you mentioned that there's some challenges. Are you looking to, as they get closer into the city, the fight's going to get harder, it's going to get more dense? I mean, what is sort of the forecast of what we're going to see in the next coming days and weeks for Mosul?
Well, I would just open up. I think as they get closer to the city, you're going to see Daesh is going to become more focused on trying to prevent them from getting in there. I would expect we're going to run into more obstacles, more vehicle-borne IEDs. The population will be there, so that will add complexity into the fight. And of course, they've had a long time to prepare for this fight, so all of that we're going to contend with here very, very soon.
We see the defenses around the city like sort of a hard center, a softer middle, and a very hard crust. And the Iraqis right now are working hard on punching through that external crust. So I do think there's a hard center that they're going to have to fight through when they get close to the city.
How important is this airfield to the overall campaign?
I think it's extraordinarily important. As we've talked about, this is where supplies will come into. It's where Iraqi forces will come into. So being able to sustain the fight for the Iraqi forces will be critical, and this airfield will play a very, very important role in that.
We're not only sustaining the fight from here for both the Iraqis and the coalition forces, we're also commanding and controlling the fight from here with headquarters, and we're projecting power from here to include artillery and rockets.
Has ISIS defense surprised you in any way? Do you believe that the defenses that they've set up can be overcome in the matter of weeks or months, or how do you see this the coming Iraqi offensive?
Well, yeah. So I think I would hesitate to give any time for anything we're doing. I mean, we'll figure out what the situation is and then how we support the Iraqis in getting over that. But like we talked about the other day, this is an adaptive enemy. We have to respect that they're going to adapt. So they do adapt. So one of the things we see, for example, is how they use their vehicle-borne IEDs. What we see them doing is protecting them, disguising them, and then trying to employ them in a very surprise mode against the Iraqi forces. So they minimize the amount of exposure, and they minimize the amount of time that the Iraqi forces have to actually react to them. And I think it's just an example of kind of the adaptive enemy that we're facing here. Steve?
I can't say that we've been surprised by anything the enemy has done, but he has used an extraordinary amount of indirect fire, mortars, and artillery and rockets, and also an exceptional number of V-bids over the last 8 days.
What can you say about the tactics that they've been using so far? Do they give any indication of whether this is going to be ISIS fighting to the death, or whether they are going to, put out these external, external defenses and then hold back, as we've seen in other places, and just maybe even melt away? Is there any sign so far from what you've seen?
He's fighting like he has fought in other places, so on that hard external crust, there's not that much fighting to the death except for suicide vest wearers, which we've seen, or belts, and suicide V-bids. Those guys are fighting to the death. The rest of them are fighting a delay, and they'll fall back. If they're following their pattern, they'll fall back into the city, and it'll get a lot harder there.
There's been some reports today and in recent days about ISIL leaders going towards Raqqa. Is there anything you can share about that with us?
Well, I think we've seen some of that reporting as well, and there does seem to be some of that occurs. That said, this is a resilient enemy, so they have leaders that can take over and are executing operations here. So, I think we'll pay attention to that, and where we can target them, we'll go after them. But again, we expect that as we get closer to the city, there will be leadership there that will direct their operations.
Casualties among the Kurds and ISF, are those what you expected to see? Where are those numbers at? And then, General, if you could address what the leadership strikes, if you've seen any effect of that on the battlefield in terms of command and control and perhaps the direction of the forces themselves.
So on the casualties, I'm not sure I've got accurate numbers for the Kurdish forces, but what the Iraqi leadership reported this evening is that they have sustained 57 of their soldiers who have been killed, and about 250 that have been wounded in the offensive so far. I would imagine that the Kurdish numbers are probably in about the same ratio as that.
I think the Kurdish numbers are in the realm of 20 to 30 killed in action and about 150 wounded in action. But I think really you should direct those questions to them. They're probably the best source for that. As for the leadership strikes, yes, we've made a very intensive campaign to strike leaders, and we are seeing it pay off. The enemy is talking about their losses in leaders, so we expect it will pay off at some point during this fight.
We had a background briefing today in Iraq, or in Baghdad, where they said that ISIS still believes that they're going to win Mosul. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I will tell you, we just spent an hour with the Iraqi leadership, and they talked about the progress of the plan and the level of cooperation, the level of collaboration between a variety of different Iraqi elements, not just the government of Iraq forces, but the Kurdistan forces, the federal police, some of the tribal elements that are coming together here. I think it's pretty phenomenal, and it's unprecedented in what we've seen here. So I think that speaks very highly of the Iraqi security forces. On top of that, we've got a very well-coordinated coalition support plan that is going to help them prevail. And if that's not enough, what I took away from the briefing from, among other things this evening, was they are growing more and more confident in their own abilities to accomplish this mission. And I think that that's going to account for a lot as we continue to press the fight.
How about you, General Townsend? Is ISIS going to win Mosul?
I think ISIL's living on borrowed time and their clock's running out. The Iraqi security forces are going to take Mosul back, period.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.